World-famous bodybuilder Rick James once said, "Cocaine is a hell of a drug." Well, maybe he's not a bodybuilder, but Rick James did say that, which is perhaps the most famous quote ever attributed to cocaine. And he's not lying. Cocaine is thought to be the third most common illicit substance behind weed and alcohol. Cocaine is a step above weed in its hardcoreness and can produce some very strong highs. Being that it's a powerful stimulant, it only makes sense that some bodybuilder at some point figured that it could be a beneficial supplement to help power through some massive weights in the gym. In theory, yes, that makes sense. More energy equals more work. However, in practice, well, we're gonna have to find out. Could cocaine be the pre-workout you've been looking for? And trust us, you'll want to stick around as there is a relationship you will not see coming. But let's hold off on that because it will throw this whole video upside down. So let's dig into what cocaine is and what effects it has on the body. Cocaine is derived from the leaves of the coca plant. And no, this is not the same as the cacao plant where chocolate is derived from its beans. This has nothing to do with this topic, but we figured we'd address it as we're here. Back to cocaine. The coca plant is largely found in South America, where it is grown as a cash crop for its leaves. Its properties are so potent that researchers believe that it played a large role in the large expansion of Incan Empire. Laborers and soldiers were said to work longer and harder due to their practice of chewing its leaves. That's a hell of a drug. Nowadays in the Western world, the chewing of leaves is rare as another preferred method of administration is used. Well, after the harvesting of its leaves, the coca leaves go under a series of processes that deliver the white powder that we know today as cocaine. This powder is then divided out into thin lines where a person will utilize something called insufflation, the technical term for snorting up the nose. And this is when you get to its effects. But seriously, if it's actually believed to have helped workers move massive stones all day, what the heck does it do to your body? The term cocaine that is used to describe the white powder is actually the name for the primary psychoactive alkaloid found in coca plants. Cocaine acts on the central nervous system and brings about increased sensations of alertness, well-being, euphoria, increased energy and motor activity, and sometimes increased sexuality. Compared to other drugs, the effects are relatively short, which is why a user will take numerous lines throughout an extended period of time. Upon inhalation, a person will generally start to see effects in 5 to 10 minutes and peak effects around 15 minutes. This high will then persist for another 15 to 45 minutes on average. And that pretty much sums up the extent of cocaine use, or at least builds a foundation to understand the drug. At its core, it's a stimulant that gives you more energy, increases your happiness, desire to socialize, and you talk a lot. Depending on who you ask, you will get different answers depending on the experience. Some like it, some hate it. So now let's think about what it could do for your muscle building endeavor. As we just told you that those in the past built the Incan Empire with coke, a pretty obvious assumption you may make is that it's going to help you with your squat and deadlifts. First off, it should come as no surprise that there aren't a ton of studies on the use of cocaine in sport. This is largely due to ethical concerns, as cocaine is illegal, making it very difficult to study, on people that is. As you'll see, there are a few relevant studies that have been performed on rodents which can give us an idea of how it might affect humans. However, there is also some other research that has been done on the physiological effects of cocaine, which can also give us a hint on what it would do in the gym. As pre-workout has become so popular in the fitness community, it should come as no surprise that lifters may be drawn to the increased arousal after doing some cocaine. This arousal also includes constricted blood vessels, dilated pupils, and increased body temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure. So let's first look at how traditional prep workouts function and if they're even beneficial. Pre-workouts are a family of supplements that are meant to be taken just before training to provide an increase in energy and mitigate fatigue. They're basically supposed to allow you to train harder and longer, resulting in a greater overall workload. There are numerous compounds that are often found in pre-workouts. However, the most common and effective compound by far is caffeine. While on the milder side, caffeine is similar to cocaine in that it too is a stimulant that acts on the central nervous system. Its stimulating effects act to enhance performance by increasing time to exhaustion, preserving muscle glycogen content, delaying perceptions of fatigue, and decreasing perceptions of pain and effort. In the past, it was believed that caffeine benefits were primarily isolated to endurance-related performance. In other words, maybe a person would have more energy lifting weights. It didn't necessarily result in strength or power gains. Well, that's what was believed. Newer research has shown that this initial belief is probably wrong, as research has now shown that supplementation with caffeine can also result in greater muscular strength and power. Further, as it increases time to fatigue, a trainee would theoretically be able to lift more weight for longer, resulting in greater overall workload. This would theoretically lead to gains in muscle mass and strength. So drink your coffee. Concerning the other compounds in pre-workout, the research shows their effectiveness are iffy at best, with some compounds showing more promise with others. But none of this matters right now, as caffeine is not only the most effective ingredient, it's also the most similar to cocaine. So while caffeine is a mild stimulant, it would make sense to conclude that a stronger stimulant would mean new PRs weekly. However, making the conclusion that cocaine is just strong caffeine is terribly misleading. For example, while it would seem as though this stimulation from cocaine would be good in the gym, it could actually lead to premature fatigue. Rodent studies have found that after using cocaine, it causes an increased acceleration in the degradation of glycogen in higher-dosed rodents, as well as increased accumulation of lactate in moderate to high-dosed rodents. Both of these result in premature fatigue of rodents in studies. In fact, there have been quite a few similar studies which have come to the same conclusion. We should say that this does appear to happen at higher doses of 12 to 20 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, at least in rodents. It's difficult to say how this would be extrapolated to human consumption. Still, this a larger concern for more endurance-related events compared to short-term bursts of high intensity, such as in weightlifting. One human study found that cocaine use can increase an individual's reaction time from a visual stimulus. Participants were administered cocaine, which resulted in significantly better reaction time over the course of 4 hours. Interestingly, it seemed as though their performance continually improved during this period. This improvement was accompanied by a feeling of less fatigue as well. However, this improvement in reaction was accompanied with a decrease in attention. Look, a squirrel type behavior. This could possibly cause a detriment to your time in the gym, as a proper training program requires a certain level of attention, especially during a set. If you're doing chest flies but things keep distracting you, you're not going to give 100% effort, and it could also mess up your mind-muscle connection or even lead to injury. Every exercise you do, even isolations, are going to activate other muscles. This can make feeling the intended muscle difficult if activation in the other muscle takes over. To combat this, a long-time hack used by bodybuilders is to simply concentrate on the muscle you want. This will help to further isolate it as well as get more muscle activation. This phenomena has been labeled mind-muscle connection and has shown to be a viable method for real results. The bottom line is that optimal training requires optimal attention. Doing cocaine is probably not going to do this for you and, in fact, will likely be a detriment. Use of cocaine can easily cause a user to become highly anxious and jittery if they use too much. In our opinion, this would make it very difficult to stay focused in the gym, and we can't imagine working out in that state would be ideal. Another study that appears to prove an increase in performance comes from mice in 2013. The goal of the test was to see if cocaine use would improve motor skills after administration. 2 groups of mice were made to perform on a rotorod. This is basically a dowel that rotates on which a mouse must walk on until they fall off. In the first phase, half were given cocaine and the other half were given saline for 6 days. In the second phase, half of the mice from each group switched, saline to cocaine or cocaine to saline. Researchers found that performance increased with the use of cocaine, but these improvements disappeared when cocaine was not administered. This led them to believe that there were performance improvements that were due to the psychomotor stimulation of cocaine and not the result of enhanced motor learning. But it's this rush that athletes are generally looking for. There is some evidence that shows it may provide some acute ergogenic benefit from its stimulation properties. In fact, other stimulants such as amphetamine have also shown to provide acute benefits, so this is not really too much of a surprise. We should also keep in mind that cocaine is classified as a S6 stimulant by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. Along with being illegal, this is because WADA deems that cocaine has the potential to enhance performance. So in addition to its effects or no effects on performance, there are also other harmful side effects of cocaine use. One minor, yet a downside all the same, is that cocaine can cause breathing issues in the nose. As you are inhaling an abrasive substance, it can cause either a runny nose or even pain. Either of these aren't going to be beneficial in the weight room and could possibly even decrease the amount of work you can do. But what about the Incan workers? Well, it's important to remember that they were chewing the leaves, so they did not experience these problems. And no, we are not suggesting you chew on leaves instead. Other side effects that occur, usually after extended use, are loss of concentration, irritability, loss of memory, paranoia, loss of energy, anxiety, and a loss of interest in sex. Still, there are other real dangerous physiological effects when a person takes cocaine, like rhabdomyolysis. This is the same rhabdomyolysis that is often associated with CrossFit. Rhabdomyolysis is a condition when a muscle experiences heavy damage and begins to break down. This causes the muscle cells to burst, which releases myoglobin into the bloodstream. Excessive myoglobin can overwhelm the kidneys, resulting in buildup of waste products. It's a very serious condition that can be life-threatening or result in limb amputation. While relatively uncommon, one cause is extensive and high-intensity exercise. It also happens to be the most common form of kidney failure associated with cocaine use. Now it seems this is the result of long-term or heavy use rather than acute, but we wouldn't want to test it. There obviously aren't any studies that look to see if heavy training with cocaine would have a compounded effect on the development of rhabdomyolysis. However, it seems to make sense that there would be, and it shouldn't need to be said, but having your muscle disintegrate is not good for muscle growth. Not good at all. Another serious issue that can occur with long-term use is heart issues. Numerous studies have concluded that the abuse of cocaine can lead to numerous heart issues such as blockade of sodium and potassium channels, oxidative stress and mitochondrial damage, and disruption of cardiac excitation-contraction coupling. While you may not completely understand what this is, just understand that collectively, this leads to an increase in blood oxygen demand while decreasing heart oxygen supply. But that's not all. It's known that cocaine use is also responsible for the acceleration of apoptosis, which is the natural death of cells in the heart muscles of users. Over time, this leads to numerous heart conditions, including heart failure and ischemic myocardial infarction. Again, not good for muscle growth. Unfortunately, there have also been recorded deaths occurring after a user takes cocaine and then partakes in intense exercise. Other unwanted effects mentioned by athletes after use are perceptual misjudgments, time disorientation, and general ability to think quickly and make judgments. As you can see, the effects of cocaine are all over the place, just like your mind after snorting a line. The most basic summary seems to be that taking a little may provide some benefit due to the rush and excited stimulation. However, more use begins to cause a detriment to performance and mental state. There's also one other factor we need to consider if we were to seriously consider using cocaine as a pre-workout. There's a reason that cocaine is known as a rich man's drug. Unless you're making a ton of money, cocaine is going to make you broke in a few months. Pricing can obviously vary, but a gram of cocaine will probably cost around $50. Unless you're able to control your use, you're going to use the entire gram when you work out. This means you could easily spend $500 to $1,000 a month just on your pre-workout. However, that price is if you are magically able to only use cocaine for your workout. This likely won't happen. Cocaine is the second most used illegal drug in the world, and cocaine addiction is a major problem. What this means is that if you are using cocaine on a regular basis, you are going to use more than just for working out. In addition to more negative side effects, which we will discuss below, it's that much more money. You're not going to be able to afford your membership anymore or supplements that are awesome like creatine. In the beginning of the video, we told you that there's a very important relationship between cocaine and bodybuilding. And there is. However, it has nothing to do with building bigger muscles. In fact, it's not even about the effect that cocaine has on bodybuilding. Rather, it's about the effect that bodybuilding or any type of exercise has on cocaine use. If you start on a resistance training program, there's a good chance that you will start using less cocaine. That's right, resistance training may be a powerful tool to actually decrease use of cocaine. A study in 2017 showed this using rats. The study design was quite simple. There were two groups of rats, a sedentary group and a resistance training group. Both groups were hooked up to machines that allowed the self-administration of cocaine. The researchers then sat back and watched. They found that the resistance training group used cocaine significantly less times and with lower doses. Now, of course, this is in rats and not humans, but resistance training has actually played a large part in some substance abuse and recovery programs for some time. It's believed that the large dopamine release from resistance training plays a big role in this. At the same time, exercise can also activate your endocannabinoid system. This is the same system activated by smoking weed. Have you ever been on a run or an intense training session and hit a point where you start to feel good? You get more motivation, a little euphoria, more energy. That's likely your endocannabinoid system being activated. The main point being is that regular exercise can actually give you pleasure in the same way cocaine does. Plus, it's free. Well, maybe you need to pay a gym membership, but that's nothing, especially compared to the price of cocaine. So, the main question, is Coke a good workout? After looking at the evidence, we would say no, it's definitely not. Now, maybe if you used a small amount, you could get a somewhat beneficial high, but that's purely hypothetical, and you can get the same effects by taking a single caffeine pill that costs pennies. Using caffeine would also completely get rid of any chance of getting any type of addiction. In other words, there is absolutely no reason you should be trying cocaine to help fuel your workout session. Not only are there other options that can provide similar benefits, you're not going to get the slew of side effects: anxiety, lack of attention, running nose, rhabdomyolysis, heart disease, death. You know, side effects. Just stick to our favorite, a cup or two of coffee.